I speak to maps, and sometimes they say something back to me. This is not as strange as it sounds, nor is it an unheard of thing. Before maps, the world was limitless. It was maps that gave it shape and made it seem like territory, like something that could be possessed, not just laid waste and plundered. Maps made places on the edges of the imagination seem graspable and placeable. And later, when it became necessary, geography became biology in order to construct a hierarchy in which to place the people who lived in their inaccessibility and primitiveness in other places on the map.
The Migration and Movement Signature Research Theme is a network of scholars and researchers at the University of Kent who are working across those areas.
The main aim of the Migration and Movement SRT is to bring people with different types of expertise into one room, and we'd like academics to collaborate with regional, national and international partners to address some of the most important questions of our time around migration and movement.
The SRT at Kent, it grows out of a long history of really excellent and outstanding work in these areas of migration and movement. This is partly because of Kent's location. Kent is the Garden of England, but it's also the border of England. The questions around seeking asylum and the questions of migration are very kind of visible and present in Kent.
Through the Migration and Movement Research Theme this year, we've been able to fund a number of pilot and impact projects by staff across the breadth of the university, from the hard sciences through to the creative arts.
My research generally looks at job quality, employee well-being and performance, and how people generally feel happy and satisfied in the work context. But recently I've been looking at these issues from the perspective of disadvantaged groups, so of which refugees and internally displaced people are disadvantaged members of our communities. The exciting thing for me is to understand different perspectives and different theoretical and practical lenses through which people look at migration and movement. So it's not just about how refugees or people who have been displaced internally or externally are affected by the societal impact of migration, but also how the research in this area can inform policy to help better people's lives and livelihoods.
I held a virtual conference under the theme Movement and Migration and pretty much hosted a plethora of interdisciplinary scholars from all over the world. So many of those scholars were from different disciplines, be it from politics, law, sociology, religious studies as well. Essentially, the objective was really to think about the intersection of religion, migration and gender and the complexities that arise out of that intersection. Okay, so we know that there are a lot of migration flows from the global south to the global north. And what we wanted to do was really to think about how ideas of identity, belonging, citizenship become contested in that space and address those challenges. So talk about those complexities and find solutions of or ways of addressing those challenges from an intersectional lens.
The Migration and Movement SRT gave me some funding to extend my public engagement work with a project called Performing International Plays. This project is a website for teaching and learning resources. It's for teachers and students of drama at secondary school level. It's a website that supports people who want to engage with international plays and offers teacher education packs, interviews, videos of scene extracts in different languages and in different translation. It really highlights the importance of translation and drama.
The Refugee Tales project is, we say, it's a walk in solidarity with refugees, people seeking asylum, people who have experienced immigration detention. And what the project is looking to do is to call attention to the fact that the UK is the only country in Europe that detains people indefinitely. And the way we call attention to that fact is by sharing the stories of people who have sought asylum in the UK, experienced detention. So everywhere the project goes, we're sharing the stories of people's lived experience of the hostile environment, of the environment that people encounter when they're here. And I think at its best, what the Refugee Tales project represents is a space when it gathers, which is not the hostile environment, which is trying really hard to articulate the value of welcome and the value of hospitality and the value of sharing experience and the value of sharing stories. These stories get taken to MPs, policymakers, and very straightforwardly, the project says, These are the stories that result from the policy of indefinite detention, from the hostile environment, and therefore you need to change those policies.
I'm particularly committed to enabling underrepresented and marginalized voices to have a presence in knowledge co-creation that is particularly about them. My ways in which I consider doing this is both in terms of thinking about academics and non-academics of diverse backgrounds being platformed, but also what I find really important is to be outward facing, being present and having a presence in marginalized locations, in sites without rights, such as being in a border town between Turkey and Syria, or being in a refugee camp in Greece or in Cyprus, and engaging and dialoguing with people who have had lived experiences of displacement, not just in terms of lived experiences, but they are also scholars, activists. And I guess my main reason of being so committed to this, both in terms of research, in terms of the signature research theme, and in terms of my own activist work, is that I come from a background of displacement. So my parents, my family came here as refugees in the 1960s. They're a part of the diaspora. They came here as a result of colonialism. And all of this gives way for my commitment and passion towards migration and movement that is the foundation of the signature research theme.
We had the Great Fish and Chips exhibition, where we look at the concept of food and the concept of migration and how migration and food are interlinked, looking at the history of migration, history of people migrating to the UK, the history of food, the history of fish itself, how it became finally the product of Great Britain. The success was we were able to engage students for the first time in the university to discuss topics in relation to migration, food, movement of people, how to shift narratives. We get a very positive feedback. So it was very exceptional for me to meet new academics and new staff in the university, to exchange ideas, to learn from their experiences, but also to share my own experiences with the academic staff, with the academic community in the university, with the outsider community as well, and trying to shift the narrative about the refugees who are academics or who want to be academics at the University of Kent. And I really want not only to focus on my studies, but to do something which is valuable to me and also corresponds to the set of values and passion and commitment that I have in life. And I was able to do that, and I am grateful, motivated, and determined to continue on this with SRT as well.
A lot of the models that we develop for statistical ecology, so for animal populations, actually also apply to human populations, and in particular to populations that are sort of hidden or cryptic or difficult to observe. One of the challenges we have in statistical ecology is that when we try to monitor, for example, butterflies, it's very difficult to go out and count them all. And the same applies to certain types of human populations that are hidden, such as drug users in a city, for example. Each field has its own kind of way of communicating, and it's all terminology and jargon, and statistics is probably one of the worst offenders in this case. But we also have different aims and different ways of seeing things or looking at things. And so when we come together from different research groups, the first struggle, essentially the first issue, is developing that common language so we can understand each other. And not only that, but to understanding what we each try to achieve with our research and where we're trying to get to. And once that language has been developed, then we can see how we can each bring our expertise and skills and develop something that is truly groundbreaking and crosses boundaries rather than just staying within our field. And I think that's what's really exciting about the SRT.
The project that relates to the migration and movement theme that I'm working on is all about the barriers that Black patients in particular who are looking for a stem cell or bone marrow donor face when they're trying to find these donors. So I'm a stem cell scientist, but I've also worked in government and policy around cell therapies. This is a new kind of research for me because it really has a need for social science collaborators. So that's how it relates to migration and movement. I'm a stem cell scientist, I'm doing social science research now, and I need those sorts of collaborators, so it's perfect.
I think migration movement research theme is really an excellent idea because it will bring both scholars as well as grassroots organizations, and with the possibility, of course, of becoming a groundbreaking hub of studying migration.
For me personally, it's been really exciting to see lots of existing excellent work at the university being brought together and consolidated under the banner of a signature research theme. I think the university's got a long history of excellence and strength in this area. The establishment of the theme really kind of signals the institution's commitment to take this further and consolidate that work.
We're always on the lookout for new collaborators and new contexts in which we can make a difference.
There was a certain sense of coherence and importance and urgency, political urgency, that underpinned the SRT. When we came together, it felt like we were a family, and we come from completely different disciplines. And the excitement that comes from like-minded people in very different places coming together with open-mindedness and no boundaries or barriers around what is possible. That's the alchemy, I think, that creates an incredibly successful signature research theme.
I didn't feel like I had a home. I didn't know where I am placed. Where's my position at this crossroad of all of these different disciplines and different positionalities? The SRT gave me that.
This is exactly what the signature research theme needs to be doing. We need to be working out what these common lines of inquiry are in order that we can all kind of develop from them and strengthen them. But also, you know, one of the things that the SRT has to do is to work with non-academic partners, with NGOs, with charities, with policymakers in the field. We're straightforwardly asking the question, what are you doing? What is it that we can do as a signature research theme, as a group of researchers, to aid your work? So it feels like research that is properly looking outward and probably seeking to address real-world questions. That's a good thing.